All right, guys, so let's get started with Chapter 5, which is all about system software. So we're going to talk about what system software is, okay? Discuss the functions of the operating system, explain the most common operating systems for personal use, talk about the different kinds of operating systems for machines, networks, and business, explain how the operating system provides a means for users to interact with the computer, explain how the operating system helps manage hardware such as the processor, memory, storage, and peripheral devices. Explain how the operating system interacts with application software. Discuss the process the operating system uses to start up the computer and how errors in the boot process are handled. And we'll talk about what the boot process is, right? Talk about the main features of the Windows interface. Summarize how the OS helps keep your computer organized and manages files and folders. Outline the tools used to enhance system productivity, backup files, and provide accessibility. So when we're talking about system software, it's comprised of two primary types of programs, all right? The operating system and utility programs. So I'll shorten operating system to OS, I'm sure, throughout this lecture. So you're not confused. OS just stands for operating system. Okay, and the operating system has three primary functions. So it manages the computer's hardware. It provides a consistent means for application software to work with the CPU. And it's responsible for the management, scheduling, and coordination of tasks. Other functions of the operating system include the user interface, or UI, okay, which is how users interact with the computer. So that includes your desktop, your icons, any menus, all that kind of stuff is part of the user interface. Okay. Excuse me. A utility program is just a little tiny program that performs a lot of the general housekeeping tasks for your computer. So things like system maintenance, file compression, disk cleanup, all kinds of things like that. Okay, and a certain set of utility programs is bundled with each operating system. So when operating systems were originally developed, they were designed for a single user performing one task at a time. And we know that's not how we work anymore. Okay, we're always multitasking. All right, so our modern OSs provide the ability to multitask, which just means that your computer can perform more than one process at a time. So this is just a list of common operating systems. Okay, we have Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, and Linux. Okay, Windows 10 is the current version of Windows. It's developed by Microsoft, and it's available for use on laptops, tablets, desktops, all-in-ones, and smartphones. Though I believe I read that they are discontinuing Windows phones. Okay. Mac OS used to be called OS X, and they've just recently changed it to Mac OS to make it more in line with, iOS over here. Okay, that's developed by Apple, and you'll find that on your laptops, desktops, all-in-ones. Okay, iOS, also developed by Apple, is a mobile operating system. So you're going to find that on your tablets, so your iPads, your iPhones, iPod Touches. Okay. Android is also a mobile operating system, and this one was developed by Google. So you find this on basically all phones that are not iPhones. Let's just put it that way. So Samsung, LG, all the millions of other brands of phones that aren't running iOS, they're running Android. And then we have Linux, which we use on the labs here on campus in our department. Okay, Linux is free, it's open source. You can modify it again to best fit your needs, like we talked about open source in the last lecture. Okay, and this can run on laptops, desktops, and tablets. The top 3 operating systems for PCs are, or for personal computers, not just PCs, okay, Windows, of course, Apple's Mac OS, and Linux. So those are the top 3 for personal computers. Okay. Our little personal devices, our mobile devices, they require these special operating systems as well, and these include, like I just said, Android, iOS, and Windows. Okay. There is also a web-based operating system. This is created by Google. So if you have a Chromebook, then you're running Google Chrome OS. Okay. With the Chrome OS, virtually no files are installed on your computing device. Okay. So all the main functionality of Google Chrome OS is provided through a web browser. So it's pretty amazing. Saves a bunch of space on your machine. Okay, so you can see that here. Okay. I imagine that the Pixel phone is running the Google Chrome OS. Okay. So Linux is awesome, especially if you're at all interested in computer science and writing code. It's really like the easiest way to do this. Linux is, like I said, open source, so it's free. It's designed for use on personal computers and on web servers. And there's all different what we call flavors of Linux, so different distributions. One that I'm familiar with is Ubuntu. Okay, that's one that I really like a lot. You can look that up. It's really easy to use and it's great. You're pretty much protected from like almost all viruses, which is amazing. Okay. So yeah, you download it in these various packages, like I said, known as distributions or distros. Okay. And what else? I gotta tell you what a platform is, because you'll hear platform like on the news, when you're reading your book. Okay. Basically, all a platform is a combination of an operating system and a specific processor. Okay, that is what a platform is. So whatever operating system you're running on your machine combined with whatever processor you have with your machine. Okay? And then the decision to update to the newest features of your operating system depends on which operating system you're using. So as you guys know, if you run Windows, they pretty much shove their upgrades, their updates down your throat, right? Like it's unavoidable. You'll think, no, 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 I don't want to do that right now. You keep telling your computer you'll do that later, and it's like pesky, in my opinion, anyway. They don't stop until you do basically upgrade. Okay. Okay, so specialized operating systems are needed for machinery, networks, and business. All right. We have multi-user operating systems, and what these do is they allow multiple users access to the computer at the same time. Okay. An example of this is Unix. So Unix is a multi-user, multitasking operating system that is also used as a network operating system. Unix is proprietary, so you can read about that more in your book. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that here. Okay, we also have RTOS, which stands for Real-Time Operating System. And basically, these are just machines that perform these repetitive series of specific tasks in precise time. And the thing with the real-time operating systems is they're pretty much created so that we as users don't go in and mess with them. Like, we don't really even think of them as computers, as having operating systems, even though they do. So examples of this would be if you have like a smart thermostat, okay, if you have like a smart dishwasher, smart fridge, all those things, they have real-time operating systems. Like a Roomba is it Roomba, the vacuum, one of the little robot vacuums. Okay, those have these real-time operating systems, and so yes, believe it or not, those are computers that you have in your house. They have operating systems, but they're just built to do, these repetitive tasks. You'll have them in your car. Okay, you'll have them in the little sky cams, the ones that go across the field, like for football games. Okay, those are using real-time operating systems. So the operating system, if you want to think of it as sort of a conductor, okay, like for an orchestra, it's coordinating and directing the flow of data and information through the computer system. So look at our little illustration here. Here's your operating system in the middle. Okay, you see the conductor. So it's providing a user interface. It's managing memory and storage. It's managing the processor. It's providing consistent interaction between applications and the CPU. And then finally, it's managing computer hardware and peripherals. So it's doing a tremendous amount of work. If you don't have an operating system, you're not going to be able to interact with your machine. The OS provides this user interface that lets you interact with your computer. Okay, so I'm drilling that into your head. All right. What we used to have were interfaces that look like this. Okay, so up here, this is what we call a command-driven interface. And so this is what, like, my first computer looked like. This was the interface. Okay, so you can see it says C here, so you're working in the hard drive. You're sort of navigating through your different directories, and that was how you would do anything on your machine. Okay, not particularly user-friendly unless you're really, into computer science. Like, this is stuff we do now on purpose. Imagine that. Okay, like, I like working in the command line. Entering in commands this way, okay? But yeah, this used to be like your only option. So it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. I remember just being like, what the heck? This is really hard, and not being a huge fan of it as a kid, for sure. Okay? And then they're like, okay, we have to come up with something better. People are not, enjoying this command-driven interface, and so they came up with a menu-driven interface, which you can see here, okay, in picture B, and it looks kind of familiar, right? Despite being like, grayscale. So file, edit, search, you click on it, and then these things open. You're able to, move your mouse down to figure out which one you want to use. You're also able to use your keyboard, press N for new, O for open, etc. Okay, so that was better. That started encouraging people to at least feel a little bit more comfortable with using a computer. And then finally, they came up with what we call a GUI. Okay, so GUI, and that stands for Graphical User Interface. And the graphical user interface is what we are currently using. Okay, so it's a lot prettier, right? We have color, and we have pretty little icons and folders and trash cans or recycle bins. And so people, started using computers more, and because we understood them, they were more comfortable for us to use. Okay, so that's like your super brief history of the user interface. But basically, we went from command-driven interface to a menu-driven interface to what we currently use, which is a GUI, so a graphical user interface.